from the centre of Hitchin at St Mary's Church, and just walking out into Churchyard. Hitchin's a great little town to come and visit if you fancy an afternoon out. There's some quirky shops here, plenty of coffee shops, restaurants, cafes, along with all the usual types of shops as well. Alongside that, the town's well connected to the local area with regular bus services coming from places like Luton and Stevenage, and also a north-south train line from London going towards Peterborough on the local trains, and of course beyond on other rail operators. It's still only 8:30 in the morning, so not many of the shops are really open yet, but there's plenty of pubs as well and some interesting shops to have a look around. We're just walking towards the market square, where I'll post a few pictures. Now beginning our walk outside of Hitchin, down Bucklesbury, one of the old streets of Hitchin, and like most of the town really, there's a selection of small shops down here, some interesting one-off shops, cafes, a couple of pubs, and all the usual sort of stuff you find in a small market town. But the buildings are still mostly intact and kept how they looked 100 years ago. The local museum and library are an interesting place to pop into if you have time to have a look at some of the old photographs of the town, and you'll see quite a lot hasn't changed, along with the stuff that obviously has changed. Some nice scooters there, can't beat a Vespa. And there is a selection of international cuisine on offer. Now taking a right-hand turn onto Toot Street as we just start to walk up a small incline to begin the walk out of the town itself. There's lots of old houses and old buildings down here, some of which are private residences, some are businesses, and still a couple of old pubs. And like many of the pubs of old, this private residence used to be one, and there's many of those about. It still looks a lovely building. You won't be able to get a pint there now, not unless you know the owner. And this building, the poet and playwright and translator George Chapman used to live here between 1559 and 1634. So he was definitely a Hitchin boy. Move out to the main road now, one of the main roads that circulates round Hitchin. Not much to see now, we're just going to go along onto the Bedford Road and walk towards where Orton Head Common begins and the walk towards Pirton. And we're walking past Hitchin Library. There used to be the Hitchin Museum, but it is now no more. The Hitchin Museum does still exist, it's in the centre of town, it's very easy to find and it's very interesting, especially if you like looking at old pictures of how Hitchin used to look 100 years ago. Walking onto a busy main road, this is the main A600 road to Bedford. Not a lot to see along here, and you need to walk roughly about 15 minutes, maybe 20, to get to the beginning of Orton Head Common. There are different routes you can take to get to Pirton from here that take you just basically a different route through the countryside once you reach it. West Hill being one of them, but I'm going to carry on down here today towards Orton Head Common and take that route along the River Orton, which is rather a grand term. It's more of a large stream, but you'll see when we get there. It's a very, very pleasant place to walk. This area of grassland next to the Bedford Road over there is called Butts Close, and at least twice a year, to my knowledge, there's a fun fair that comes here, one of the usual travelling fun fairs that come around May and October, I think, seems to be the time they come. And over there is the Hitchin swimming pool, which also has a really nice outdoor swimming pool open from May until approximately the end of September, I believe. But it's a lovely area to sit outside there while your kids play in the pool. And what more can I say? Hitchin Town Football Club over there. The stadium. It is there behind the trees somewhere. I'll carry on down the Bedford Road in a moment towards the beginning of Orton Head Common. Most exciting part of the walk, really, down the Bedford Road, but having said that, it's quite safe to walk along. There's a few shops, petrol stations, a couple of pubs, so should you need a rest anywhere or to get some sustenance, then there's plenty of options. We're almost at the beginning of the Orton Head Common, so I'll continue once we get there. Thankfully that's the the end of the hustle and bustle of Hitchin and also the busy A600 Bedford Road. And we're now just entering into the Alton Head Common. Now, you have a couple of alternatives you could possibly think about if you wish to do this walk, and that would be, firstly, come to Hitchin, park up and then walk the whole way to Pirton. You could also look online at the alternative routes I mentioned and walk back a different way back to Hitchin. That'll be a round trip of around about 6.5 miles, 7 if you amble a little bit off the track, and getting on for 10 kilometres. Half of that if you just go one way. Now, there is a bus service. If you Google Hitchin to Pirton bus 89, it will let you know the timetable and you can have a look at that. It's a fairly infrequent service and doesn't operate on a Sunday, so you would need to time that accordingly to fit in with your walk. But as I say, you could get yourself to Pirton. There's a couple of pubs there and a shop, and it's quite a pleasant place to have a wander about and have a look and see what's happening there. This is the River Orton, and we're going to continue the walk all the way now along this trail to the Pirton Road and Alton Head Spring, where that water comes out of the ground. This part of the walk's approximately 1.5 miles through some really lovely countryside. It's amazing how quickly the noise of the traffic disappears once you get walking along here, and you won't really hear too much other than the sound of the birds and the river flowing past you, and a fair few dog walkers, cyclists. This is also a cycle track, and joggers along here too. Usually plenty of people about, and there's a number of places where you can stop and have a rest on some seats. If you've got the kids with you, they can paddle in the water or play, throwing stones in, and all the fun things that the kids like to do. It's a bit chilly though, that water, so bear that in mind if you're thinking about letting them go in there. Fairly quiet along here today. This is around about 9:15 on a Thursday morning in March, and I've not seen too many people walking about. If you come here at the weekends or late afternoon, it's quite a lot busier, but it is never what you might call actually busy. People do use this as a cycle route to get from Pirton to Hitchin, as it's a lot more pleasant and certainly a lot safer than using the roads. This is a bit of a crossroads in the journey. Where you're looking now is where I've just come from, the Bedford Road, and this footpath here is one of the alternative routes you could have taken off the Bedford Road, walking through the housing estate over there and coming out here instead. It's a good alternative. There's less traffic, and there's some shops that you walk past along the way too. Now I shall be taking this route, continuing along the Orton River, or River Orton, to the Orton Head Spring. However, this is an alternative route you can take to get to Pirton, past the old mill. It's probably the quickest route, but not quite as interesting. So, dependent on how quickly you want to get to Pirton. Either way, are very pleasant walks, having said that. And again, if you Google it, it will show you in more detail online the different routes you can take once you're actually in the Orton Head Common Nature Reserve. Anyway, let's carry on. We'll soon be off this actual path and walking more closely to the river once we reach the woods. But it's certainly a very pleasant morning for walking along here today. Quite a good flow of water running down here at the moment. Just into the early spring, so there's still plenty of water coming out of the Chiltern Hills to fill up these chalk streams. Oh, magnificent day today. Morning. This is a nice place to sit for a while and let the kids run around a bit. You can have a bit of a mini game of poo sticks through there. There was quite a lot of tree debris in the water, so your stick would probably get stuck to another stick. That makes sense. Once again, that's another route you could find yourself here as an alternative way of getting here from Hitchin. It really is a beautiful spot here. The dogs absolutely love it here. There is not a dog that won't jump in the water here. So if you bring your dog and you don't want it to get soaking wet and stink your car out all the way home, then you better avoid this place. Again, another potential route you could arrive to the Head Common from Hitchin, through these fields here. In abundance at the moment. Let's carry on. As always, these walks that take an hour to an hour and a quarter take a lot longer, really, because of all the stopping that goes on to look at the scenery and having a rest, just enjoying the environment, really. I think this fencing's gone up recently to protect the embankment, because again, it was another area where people would jump in the water for a paddle, dogs running in and out, and I think it may have eroded the embankment slightly, so they've put this fencing up. It's fairly new. There is a way in for your dog over there if they really want to. Beautiful fresh clean water down there, straight out of the ground, as you'll see shortly. Well, as always, I'll take a deviation from the main route, and again, this is just a bit further along, and the cattle are over here. Not sure it's the Longhorn cattle though. Quite impressive beasts, the Longhorns that are here. It's sun in my eyes at the moment, so I can't really see properly. Oh yes, yes it is. Yes, here we are. Let's go and say hello to these guys. It's a lovely spot just here as well. It's quite marshy and boggy, especially when there's been a lot of rain. And there's cattle here, so there's plenty of evidence of deposits from the cattle, so it's a good place. If it's a bit of a damp day or it's been raining, make sure you've got your wellies on or good boots. Look at this guy. Hey. Hey. For them to eat. Right, let's get back to the track. nice little spot just here. The sun, but little sign here that gives you a little update on the wildlife that you can see around here. Including the long-haul cattle. Depending on the time of day, red kites, some bats, and frogs is quite often, well, at the right time of year, lots and lots of frogs spawn in here, which is always interesting if you've got the kids with you as well. They love all that sort of thing. Tiny shoreline frogs. They're frog spawn, but it's obviously not now. That's an interesting read, and it just gives you a better idea of more information about the Horton Head Spring and the wetland surrounding. You see any litter along this route, which is pretty good as it's so close to a town and so well used, certainly at the weekends, by a lot of people. But you do occasionally see some. You don't need the environment ruining any more than it already is. But on the whole, it's pretty clean down here, and people respect the nature here, and presumably take the rubbish with them, which is good. Have seen a shopping trolley in here on one occasion a long time ago, but I think that sort of thing's fairly rare in these parts, thankfully. As I say, it's towards the end of March, so we're into spring. It's not been a particularly wet winter. Certainly the remnants of the winter rain are still knocking about. A lot of this is dried up, and the stream will run a lot lower towards the end of summer. But I've never seen it actually dried up completely. The Horton Head Spring, where we'll get to in a short while, I've seen it from quite an impressive gush down to a little trickle over the years, so it does depend on the time of year, and obviously that has a knock-on effect to the amount of water going down the stream itself. I've never seen it completely dried up. And yet another route that you can get to this part of the walk from Hitchin. There's our mates over there still. Oh, I'm definitely downwind from them as well. Good healthy country smell. This is a nice area to bring your picnic. It's a bit of open space, some grass to sit on, bring a rug, bring a picnic. Always tend to get a lot of people here. Again, they've fenced off a lot of it now, I think to protect the embankment. As you can see, there's a few people sat here this morning, and at the weekend or during the school holidays you'll quite often see mums with their kids along here having a bit of a picnic and some snacks and a drink, and the kids can run around here. Great place. And of course the dogs want to go straight in there. Well, these two guys look like they're more interested in each other actually, but that's another story, I guess. Please do, we're waiting. Here we go. Well, I'm not going. Yay! Oh, that's okay. Right. So with the dog soaking everybody excitement over with, we're heading to the last part of the nature reserve, which for me is the nicest part of all. Pretty much whichever route you take to get here from Hitchin, you'll still end up at the place we were just at and able to walk along this part of it. It's not really a cycle track anymore along here. And in places you have to be a bit careful of the roots sticking up, otherwise you can end up in the water if you're clumsy like me. Take this path here if you've brought a buggy with you or are in fact on a bike, then you really need to take that little path there which takes you right up to the Chiltern Head spring, as does walking along here, but it's a bit more uneven and not quite so good if you've got a bike or a buggy or you're not quite so light on your feet. There's a few trip hazards as well. For me, this is the best bit of the walk along here. Very peaceful and calm. And because we're quite a way outside of Hitchin now, a lot of the people just nipping out to take the dog for a quick walk tend to have diverted off by now and gone round in a circle back into the town. So you get fewer and fewer people coming along here. But you'll always see somebody. There's a lot of tree debris in the water at the moment. Did have a couple of big storms through about a month ago, so a lot of trees came down, big branches, dead wood out the trees, etc, etc. I think it's a major problem, but I guess the nature reserve guys will be along at some point to tidy it up a little bit. Use the wood to turn into habitats for the various wildlife that are around here. They're very good at that actually around here. just starting to come to the end of this part of the walk. There's still a good mile or so from Pirton. And this is Chiltern Hills Spring. It has its own unique quality in some way. Where the water ends, really, because this is where it bubbles out the ground, along with all the other little springs that are dotted around this location. Not really much bubbling around this moment. Barely a trickle coming out of there today, really. Than it looks, because I can see it flowing past heavily through those branches that are in the water. This is Chiltern Hills Spring. If you do bring the kids and bikes and so on, keep an eye on them here, otherwise there's certain accidents that could occur. Up that path takes you onto the main Pirton road that you would drive down if you were driving from Hitchin to Pirton. And this pathway takes you across to a footpath that runs parallel to the Pirton road. You can't really walk on it, really. It's quite a busy road, lots of traffic, and the verges are not really all that suitable to walk on. So there's the path this side of the hedge that goes next to the road, and we'll be walking up over the hill there, and then down into Pirton, where this walk will end. There's the road there. Well, this is the footpath that runs parallel to the Pirton road, and you may or may not hear traffic on the other side of the hedgerow and bushes and trees here. Far more preferable to walk along here. Can get a bit muddy during winter, but nothing a pair of wellies can't help you with. And you have beautiful views all the way across the Hertfordshire countryside there. Hitchin being back over there behind the hills. It's about a mile now into Pirton from here, and again just there where you can see the tree line is another route you could find your way down. If you remember the four-way crossing I stopped at, and the route that takes you up to the mill, once you get up there, there's another couple of routes three I can think of to get you to Pirton from up there, and that roadway there, or pathway, is one of them. footpath that leads you back to West Mill in Hitchin, one of the alternative routes I keep mentioning. It's about a mile or so down there. It's quite pleasant too, but we're at the top of the hill as you lead away from North Head Common, North Head Spring, and continuing on the footpath next to the Pirton Road. I'm sure you can hear the crops are starting to grow. Spring is definitely here, and in the distance you see St Mary's Church in Pirton just poking above the trees there. Very hazy day today actually. It's very warm, especially for March. So this is just a straight walk now into Pirton. Before actually getting to the village, there's a right hand turn at the end of this path that takes you along the farm track into the playing fields, the rec at Pirton, where there's a kids' playground. Quite often plenty of sports going on in there, football, cricket in the summer. And if you're really lucky and any of those are happening, the bar might even be open. But if not, you can continue on with me into Pirton, where there's 2 pubs and a shop, and somewhere to collect the bus if you want to get a bus back to Hitchin. Or indeed, if you get the bus in the first place from Hitchin, you do exactly as I've just described, but in the other direction. I'll allow a couple of hours really, to be fair, to appreciate the walk properly. And longer if you plan to have picnics and stuff along the way. Right, I'm at the end of the footpath that runs parallel to the Pirton Road, and just taking a little walk down this farm track where you can cut through onto the wreck. This stuff will cause me to be getting my hay fever tablets out in the not too distant future. Oh dear. When you get to Pirton, there's, like I've mentioned, there's a shop, a couple of pubs. There's a place called the Berry next to the church. Quite often, well, in the summertime, from about now, about April time usually, through till the end of October. There's usually a dozen or so, sometimes quite frisky bullocks running around in there. They're okay, but they are a little bit inquisitive sometimes. So if you don't like bullocks coming up and paying attention to you, then it might be worthwhile avoiding there. But they're pretty good. Most people walk their dogs and stroll across there and nothing much happens. And absolutely fine day. Wonderful time to take a walk first thing on a midweek morning. I feel very privileged I can do that. Farm over there. Well, this has been a splendid walk this morning. But you can do this walk in any weather conditions you like, from heavy snow through to boiling hot sunshine. Just make sure you got the right kit on. Walking through Chiltern Head Common when it's been snowing is absolutely magical. And I'll be going back down there in the next few days with my grandson for a game of poo sticks, that's for sure. Anyway, we're entering the recreation ground now. It's very well kept actually, it's well looked after. There's a couple of 2 or 3 football pitches, cricket pitch over there that's fenced off, obviously for the keep the wicket in reasonable order. Always quite a few people up here with their dogs. Playground for the kids, little sports hut, little sports club, and even some floodlit tennis courts. So it's for a little village, this is pretty good. And this is also where the annual summer fete takes place in July, or at least I hope it will. Now COVID is on its way, and also the annual firework display in November. Always very well patronised. Everyone that lives in this village tends to come along to it. In fact, there's where the bonfire was last year. That'll have grass on it just in time for next year's bonfire. So if you come up here, there's an event on. There's always a possibility that the clubhouse will be open where you can get a drink, or Sunday mornings if there's football on. Usually that little hatch is open, and there's some very nice smelling bacon butties come out of there, along with hot drinks and snacks and so on and so forth. And you can always bear that in mind if you're going to head over this way. People about today as it's a school day. Well, here we are. We have finally arrived in Pirton. This is probably one of my favourite parts of the village. It's a little area, grassy area near to the church that you can see over there called Bury. And it doesn't look like my mates, the little bullocks, are back yet, but I'm sure it won't be long before they are running around in here and drinking and doing things in that water there so it dries up. So there's a number of walks you can do from Pirton out up into the hills over there, and that's for another day. So if you want to be notified when I publish that, I'll be doing one of those fairly shortly. Press on the subscribe button and and it'll let you know when I head out there. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the walk from Hitchin to Pirton in Hertfordshire.